a subscriber to a friend of mine's podcast said, look above the fence right before the mom moves the camera. So I was like, okay. So I look above the fence right before they move the camera, and I couldn't believe it, but I see, as clear as day, a head with two eyes standing about 8 to 10 feet tall over the top of a 6-foot privacy fence. And not only that, but we were able to put that video in our software, and with vector tracking software, determine the movement is independent and it is not a shadow.
Welcome back. I am here with Scott Roeder. Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be here.
All right. You are coming at this whole phenomena issue from a dramatically different approach, from a very hard physical evidentiary approach. So why don't you tell folks about yourself and what relevant experience you have, and then we can get into the topic.
Yeah, sure. I'm a crime scene reconstruction expert. I specialize in shooting scene reconstruction, video analysis, expert testimony, and forensic computer animation. Typically, I work on homicide cases, either defending, being part of the defense team, or part of the prosecution team. I also do a lot of work in the field of police-involved shooting cases, both working with law enforcement and working on behalf of people who believe their civil rights have been violated. I started my company in 2002 in Cleveland, Ohio, and for the last 24 years now, I've worked on, I think the last count was about 1,600 individual cases. I've testified in court several dozens of times, given my deposition, maybe 100 times now. I travel internationally to do this work. I was the expert on the Oscar Pistorius case in South Africa, where I traveled to and spent a lot of time there working on that case. Matter of fact, this Mother's Day, CNN is dropping a documentary called How It Really Happened 10 years later, the trial of Oscar Pistorius, where I was interviewed for a couple hours. I think I'll be a heavy feature in that show. So everybody watch that if you want. And
just really quick, for folks who don't know that case, just really quickly, can you give a quick background?
Yeah, sure. Oscar Pistorius, better known as the Blade Runner, was the first disabled athlete to qualify for the regular Olympics. He was born without the tibia in his leg, which means below the knee. He had no bone, and it was amputated at an early age. And soon after that, he was fitted with what's called blades. And these blades give disabled people the ability to run. And he became so good at it that he won the gold medal in the disabled Olympics. Anyway, so he was the first disabled person to qualify for the regular Olympics. And as a matter of fact, he carried the flag for the country of South Africa in the Olympics. And he was the hero of the country of South Africa, was the face of the country of South Africa. And on Valentine's Day, 2014, he was involved in a tragic accident where he thought his house was being invaded by an armed intruder. He got his gun and he shot 4 times through a closed bathroom door. And unfortunately, it was not an intruder. It was his girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, who ultimately died as a result of being struck by bullets going through the door. He was charged criminally. He was ultimately found not guilty at trial. And then on appeal, the government appealed the verdict, and he was found guilty of murder on appeal without a new trial and spent the last 10 years in jail. He just got out, and I was the expert on that case that proved that he was one on his stumps and not on his prosthetic legs at the time he discharged a weapon, and also demonstrated the totality of the evidence on that case.
When the United States and China clash, the world will never be the same, especially when forces beyond reality threaten to intervene. What if the United States went to war with the People's Republic of China? How would these rivals fight for supremacy on land, sea, air, and across the stochastic streams of time? What wonder weapons would be unleashed? What horrors would emerge from the irradiated sludge of the South China Sea? What heroes would rise and forever change the course of history? Tread into the deepest and darkest dimensions of the multiverse, gaze through a kaleidoscope of fractured realities, and bear witness to the disturbing visions of World War III from today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War, China. Available now from Bain Books at bain.com.
All right, thanks, Fred. So anyway, continue with what you were saying before I interrupted you with your background.
My day-to-day, 12 hours a day, is I run a company called Evidence Room, based here out of Cleveland, Ohio, where I employ experts in the field of law, art, and science. And it's those three principles: the understanding of law, the understanding and application of science, and according with American jurisprudence and legal system, to put together systematic interpretation of physical and forensic evidence to demonstrate to a degree of scientific probability the most reasonable version of events in all sorts of kind of cases. And it's that principle and those techniques that I use in those cases that I applied to this situation in Las Vegas with the Kenmore family.
All right, before we get into that, how did you get into this digital forensics, crime scene reconstruction business?
How did I get into it? I think I kind of invented it. If I'm going to quote Sylvester Stallone and Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, brother. Nothing wrong with that.
When they asked him, hey, where'd you come up with the name Italian Stallion? He's like, well, I invented it, But no, once upon a time, I was a young man. And I was probably on track to, go to law school. And I was working for a clerk of court in Cuyahoga County and working for several law firms. I got recruited to work in the field of what's called demonstrative evidence. And I had a background also in photography. And so I started working for a couple of different firms, working with lawyers to create visual presentations for trial. And then as I was a young man with young children, still going to school and working full time, I ended up going to the University of New Haven School of Forensic Science, where I studied shooting and crime scene reconstruction and worked under the famous Dr. Henry Lee and other people. And so as a result of that, I kind of carved out this field called forensic computer animation. As a matter of fact, at the Arnold Markle Symposium in, I think, 2012, I was awarded a special honor by the University of New Haven School of Forensic Science for contributions to the field of forensic science as a specialist implementing new technology into the field as a reliable, peer-reviewable technique, which is now taught in a lot of places. I'm an adjunct contributor to Georgetown University and Princeton and several other places to help teach young budding lawyers and other professionals in the field of forensic animation and how that can help demonstrate truth or innocence on a case. And then the UFO phenomenon, I'm not in the UFO field. Somebody brought this video to me and I broke it down and I'm just sharing what I found.
Yeah, I think that's why that actually enhances your credibility, right? You're just an independent outsider who has, again, the whole point of me asking you about your background is just to establish your credibility. You're just looking at this blind. And by the way, I don't even know what your conclusion is, right? I just know that you analyzed it. Okay, so this field, how many people are doing what you're doing? I would imagine nobody was doing it at the beginning, and now you're starting to get a little competition, but it's probably still wide open spaces.
Yeah, not that much. I mean, I'm 53 now, so I've been doing this for quite a long time. And there's some people out there that do individual components of what I do. There's a lot of companies out there that do animations. There's a lot of companies out there that do science. There's a lot of companies out there that do legal consulting. But I think that what we do is extremely unique in that we bring all three of those components together: art, science, and law. And it's that kind of triangle. I'm not throwing up an Illuminati sign, but it's that
or a gang sign.
But it's that triangle of what we do that what I think what makes us unique is we have the artistic ability to tell the story and create the scene. We have the scientific background to make sure that we are interpreting the physical and forensic evidence correctly and the interrelationship of it. And then we have the legal background to make sure that these things adhere to the legal process and are admissible and reliable. And I think that's why we're pretty unique.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Okay. This Vegas video. First, kind of lay the scene, what is alleged to have happened. And then second question after that, once you kind of lay it out, how were you brought into this?
Well, here's what was alleged to have happened. On the late night hours of April 30th, May 1st, 2023, there was a bizarre meteor that came down very low in the sky with a green hue to it that came very low into the ground. And it was caught on police officer Las Vegas body camera footage. It was caught on several Ring cameras. It was also caught on auto car driving FLIR cameras, as well as a camera that picked up heat signatures. And that meteor, I am going to call a UFO because I think there's a chance it's not a meteor. I think there's a chance that it might be a UFO, and that just means unidentified flying object and not necessarily a spaceship. And then there were a lot of accounts that people saw this and were freaked out about it. Now, I've seen shooting stars many times in my life. I think maybe 4 times. I've never seen a shooting star and called 911. Okay. But there were police officers that are on the record, on video, on audio, talking to each other that said, "Hey, man, did you see that meteor?" And the other guy's like, "Yeah, that UFO." He's like, "I'm freaking out. The hair on my skin is standing up." And this is before they even went to the Kenmore house. The reaction by the Las Vegas Police Department, even just to the meteor, really perked my interest. So soon after midnight, Angel Kenmore, I think at the time 17 years old, calls 911 and says, "There's an alien in my backyard. There's a couple of aliens in my backyard. They're 8 to 10 feet tall. They're definitely not human. They got big eyes and they're looking at us, and please send somebody." And that 911 call is readily available anywhere on the internet. You just got to Google it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're tiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
It's very convincing. The 911 operator took his claim extremely seriously. Officers were dispatched to his home where they interviewed the family, took their accounts, treated it very seriously, and then went into the backyard to investigate. And then on their way out, they said to the family, you have it on audio and video, "If this ever happens again, don't call us." And they left because they were scared. There's 13 minutes of missing body camera footage that is not able to be procured by the Freedom of Information Act, by the Las Vegas Police Department. That's being held back of body camera footage when they entered the backyard of the Kenmore family. They're giving an excuse that the footage is being held back for the privacy of the family. I don't believe that's the case. I believe the footage is being held back because there's something juicy there.
What does the family say? Does the family say, like, we want the video to come out? Or are they quiet? What's going on with that? I bet you they went quiet, didn't they?
Well, the family went very quiet. And listen, they have every reason to be suspicious of the media. They have every reason to be suspicious of people trying to be involved in their business. This is a good, honest family. And they kind of just want to be left alone. They're not looking for stuff and things. And I find them to be incredibly authentic in everything that they've said about this case. So the mother, Contra Kenmore, took a video of her husband, Angel, and his little brother entering the backyard. I'm sure everybody's seen it by now. It's a very famous video. And in the background of the video, I believe the father and Angel are reacting to something in the background. And about 6 months ago, I analyzed that and I did a whole podcast about it and several channels and all this stuff. And people are just like, meh, you know. But I was focused on the entity or the thing or whatever it was in the background that scared the family. And I never caught the head that was over the fence because I was so focused on what the people were reacting to. That was my instinct. What were the people reacting to? And I was able to break that down and verify, I think, beyond a reasonable doubt, that there was something there in the background that they were reacting to. Couldn't get any definition out of it, but we did see movement. And that movement coincided with them being shocked and retreating. Now, put the clock 6 months later, a subscriber to a friend of mine's podcast said, look above the fence right before the mom moves the camera. So I was like, okay. So I look above the fence right before they move the camera, and I couldn't believe it, but I see, as clear as day, a head with two eyes standing about 8 to 10 feet tall over the top of a 6-foot privacy fence. And not only that, but we were able to put that video in our software and with vector tracking software, determine the movement is independent and it is not a shadow. Now, listen, a couple of debunkers out there, and that's fine. I debunk things too. They say it's a shadow. Well, let's just all go back to Shadow 101 class for a minute, shall we? You have a light source, you have an object, you have a shadow, right? What do you need for a shadow? You need a surface. You need a surface. You need a surface, right? So if I have a light source and an object, a shadow is not going to be floating right here. Not going to happen. It doesn't work. That's not how it works. So the idea that it's a shadow is total 100% bullshit. Okay? You heard it here from an expert. It's not a shadow. I bet you $1 million it's not a shadow. We proved that it's not a shadow. Anybody that wants to make the shadow argument, they can go jump off a bridge because it's a stupid argument. It doesn't make any sense. And until somebody shows me how a shadow can float in midair at 8 to 10 feet, I won't believe that as a criticism.
How does this vector software work?
Well, that's complicated, but essentially, well, I don't really want to teach a software class impromptu after a 14-hour workday, but essentially, yeah, I mean, just trust me, it works. And there's experts out there in the field. You can put basically little X's, little points in the software where you can track the location of an object and then pick up where that object then comes into screen next. Okay. So we have an object that's here, 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 and here. And if I put a mark, a little X on the object, say between the slit of the fence, and when that object appears again, that X will appear again. So we're able to track through technical software to track what motion is associated with an original object and what motion is a new object. And we're able to track both the body behind the fence and the head as being independent original artifacts that are being moved independently behind the fence. And we looked at all of the available light sources and we tracked those light sources, and there is no light source that is going to create the shadow, let alone a body behind a fence with a floating head at 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, so it's a basic physics engine. It's a vector, just tracks vectors. So, vector has a magnitude and direction. So you're looking at some sort of velocity and whether or not that's stabilized. I'm sure it's fancier than that. And I'm assuming it does the same with shadows. It looks to see where the light source is. It tracks where that ray of light would be, and then it would be able to calculate kind of the length of the shadow, how the shadow would move. It's, without getting into too much detail, there's some calculus involved. There's some
and there's a physics engine involved with it. Okay. And I have several people on my staff that are incredibly competent that have been working with this type of software as we apply it to the crime scene field, and we applied it to this video.
Okay, now I don't know if you track this, and if the question goes too far, feel free to ignore it.
Yes.
On all the cases that you've consulted, do you have a success rate, or is that not relevant to what you do?
It's not really relevant to what we do. Of course, I keep kind of a tally on when I testify on cases. I don't testify in every case because not every case goes to trial. You know, about 1% of all cases actually get into a courtroom. But yeah, I mean, what I do as a scientific expert, I'm not trying to say this guy's good and this guy's bad. You should, you know, I don't have a dog in the fight. So whether my client wins or loses, you know, of course I want my case to be successful and I want the people that hire me to be successful, but that's not my job.
You're not the only evidence. You're not the only evidence in the case. You're just a component. So it's not really relevant. I got it.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an advocate. I get paid whether they win or whether they lose. I'm a technician.
Right. You just provide the data and the conclusion based on the data, and that's it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this story, you said that they saw this green object. Did anyone see where it landed?
Well, there's actually was some very good work done by some people on 4chan and some people on Reddit, where they were able to track using maps and video overlay the areas where this meteor / UFO came down, and all signs point to right in the backyard of Angel Kenmore's lot. And it's a big lot. So they have a house, and then they have a large area. It might be like 100, maybe let's say 200 feet wide by 400 feet deep. It's a pretty big lot. And they have heavy equipment. They refurbish cars. I mean, these are competent people with a big plot of land in Vegas, right? So, I mean, they have a huge yard. So there's plenty of room for something to land. And we all have, you know, heard, maybe not all of us, but, you know, that sometimes these UFOs, they might be 20-foot diameter on the outside. But I've heard once you get on the inside, it might be as big as a football field. Right. So, you know, let's say we have this small craft coming down and it's like a clown car, right? You got 200 aliens coming out of this thing. I don't know. But I think all of the evidence suggests that it very well could have come down in an area very close to Angel Kenmore's family's property. We don't have any independent verification that there's any video of a craft on the ground or anything like that. So I really don't have any more information than what's out there.
As part of your analysis, you said you looked at multiple film, body cam imagery, etc., showing the meteorite. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Was any of your technology or any of your technicians able to estimate the velocity of this thing coming down, or is it there weren't enough points to figure that out?
Yeah, I've been focused more on the alien above the fence, and I haven't really had time to look at that, although it's a great idea. I've had that recommendation given to me a bunch of times by some really good commenters on my YouTube page. I'll tell you what, the thing that encourages me out here is that the people in the UFO community are really smart, and they really know some stuff. So I've been really pleased. I've had, I think, 1,300 comments on that video, and I've been so pleased with the level of sophistication by the community and with great ideas. And people are sending me clips of the video where they've seen something else, and we're trying to get to it. But, you know, like I said, I work 12 hours a day on my crime scene stuff, and I was really working on this UFO thing just kind of on a lark when I stumbled upon this situation. And, you know, people seem to be really interested on what I found. So I'm talking about it in my free time and, you know, seeing if people out there are interested in sharing with me other authentic videos that they have captured themselves. Because here's the thing, Sean, on the UFO phenomenon, there's so much material out there on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter and all that stuff. And people always have, well, we can't tell the real from the garbage. Well, guess what? We can. Okay? We can. It's not that hard. All you have to do is send me, or somebody like me, send Sean, send anybody, the original video. If you took it, you can send it to me from your phone. It's got the metadata on it. We'll protect your privacy unless you want to be participating in it. And if it's an original video, you can send it to us. We can authenticate that. and then we can break the video down just like we did in this case. Okay. But once it's filtered through the TikTok and the YouTube and the Twitter, and it's 20 generations in and everybody's got a tagline, nobody even knows who the original photographer was, where and when it was. So the key elements to doing this by the community, for the community in a crowdsourcing way is if you are the person who took the video, send it to somebody like me or Sean or somebody else, and we can break it down. And then that's what real disclosure is going to be. It's going to be by guys like us, people like us, men and women in the community that are smart, capable, and willing to put in a little bit of the hard work to get past the sensationalism, get past the money walls, get past the personal profit, and just do it for the sake of science. And that's my call to action to people out there in the community. Listen, I'm nonprofit on the UFO stuff. I have a Crime Scene Time Machine podcast. I have my YouTube channel. None of it is monetized. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to monetize it. The only thing I have is a Patreon account, patreon.com/Crime Scene Time Machine. We ask for an $8 donation, the price of a cup of coffee. We'll send you a trucker hat that's got Crime Scene Time Machine on it. And that's it. Every penny we would collect, and we've collected zero right now. Okay. I'm probably down $20,000 on my UFO obsession because, I'm not looking to make money on this. I'm interested in this because it's an interesting subject. And frankly, it's a lighter subject for me because, I deal with another episode of why people suck and kill each other. Okay.
Yeah. So it's dark. The stuff you deal with is really dark. Right.
Yeah. My day-to-day, 12 hours a day is dealing with dark stuff. So the UFO phenomenon to me is kind of a breath of fresh air. I can loosen up a little bit. I can have some fun with it. We can hypothesize and pontificate and theorize on interesting things if we have something valid to talk about. And I like the idea of people sending me things. I can determine if it's valid, if it's authentic, and then we can kind of let the conversation open up and have a little bit of fun with it. And I think it's for the community, by the community, for the benefit of everybody. And as long as I keep it right there, I feel like I'm good with that.
All right. Well, since we're on the topic of videos, we'll come back to the Vegas thing, but there's two other ones I want to ask about. So have you seen this alien autopsy video? It kind of looks fake, but that doesn't mean it's fake. Right?
I have inside information on that.
Can you share? Or?
I can. So a friend of mine is an artist in England, and he's a sculpturist. I'll reserve his name at this time. But he was approached back in the 90s by a guy by the name of Ray Santilli. And Ray Santilli is a movie producer, documentary filmmaker kind of guy. I haven't heard much from him lately. He's probably an older guy now, but I don't know if he's still around or not. But hey, Ray, if you're out there, give me a call and talk to you. And he was able to get a large sum of money, 7 figures.
From whom?
That's a good question. And he was tasked with the job of finding an artist who could take this little 2-second piece of preserved film from 1940 something or other, and based on this 2-second piece of film that was preserved, I think the rest of it was burned in a fire or something. It was a 2-second piece of film that he got. And he was able to take that 2-second piece of film and give it to this artist friend of mine. And that artist used that 2-second film, original, authentic film, and built a whole set and alien body out of that to match it, to put a psyop out there in the public to trick people that it was real. And it's fake, but it's based on something very real. So that's how psyops work. They take something real, make something fake out of it, and then put that out there. So even though that 2-second video is real and it shows a real alien autopsy, they make a fake video purporting it to be the original. And then when it gets debunked, everything gets debunked. And that's how the CIA works.
Yeah, you sow just a little bit of doubt to destroy the greater truth.
Yeah.
And you said it was a psyop. So saying it's a psyop, implies that the purchaser was a government entity, probably a U.S. government entity.
Or interested party. Now, mind you, Ray Santilli and the artist are both in England. Okay, so this could have been by a foreign government intelligence agency.
Yeah, or it could be a cutout. Well, actually, it's actually more likely to be CIA if they were hired in England. Than this CIA is technically not allowed to operate in the United States. So you hire somebody from England when you work in the CIA, and you can get away. Anyway,
they're not allowed to work in the USA.
Okay. All right. So it is based on something that is allegedly true, but that video is a stone cold fake.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. My friend who made the alien, I said, how'd you make it? And so he lives actually in an old lighthouse. He lives in an old White House.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And overlooks some of the famous battles of World War II in that area. And anyway, around that area is a lot of sheep. And he was able to purchase some live sheep that he slaughtered, skinned, and then put the sheep intestines together while fresh inside of the carcass that he fashioned out of a mold. Now, mind you, this artist is commissioned by the Crown of England to create some of the most elaborate art pieces I've ever seen, outside of the gardens of state houses and royal palaces and such. And he's just extremely talented. But now he's into consciousness and different things. As a lot of people in the UFO field, when they get exposed to this, they get into meditation and remote viewing. And I think that's where the real phenomenon gets discovered, is through guys like Russell Targ and these remote viewers and these meditators that can somehow connect with the phenomenon in some spiritual or intellectual or metaphysical way. And I feel like that's the direction my friend is going as well. But I actually became a friend with him because of my investigation into the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which he had some information. Yeah, well, no, listen, the UFO community needs to understand something, okay? The UFO file and the deep state file, or the permanent state, or the military industrial complex, they're like this, okay? And the reason I found out that they're like this, and until the UFO investigators get on board with the truth community, I don't think anybody's going to find out the truth, because the military industrial complex and the UFO file are responsible in part for the assassination of John F. Kennedy. They're responsible in part for people being banned into exile. It's responsible in part for journalists being imprisoned, right? They're responsible in part for disinformation campaigns, for the permanent state of war. The military industrial complex and the UFO file and our permanent state of war is where they converge. Because the UFO community is smart and the truth community is smart, but the truth community needs to get on the UFO file, and the UFO people need to get on the truth community, because I believe that's
who is
where
the truth community is. I know the UFO community is, but the truth community, how would you define that?
I would say people that investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy, people who investigate the truth behind 9/11, people who investigate the truth behind false flags, people who investigate the real truth of the history of humanity and our government and all of that stuff. I don't know if there's a tight-knit community. I'm just saying that, to me, I'm not a part of any community. I carry no banner. I hold no rank. I'm just an independent man with no dog in the fight, except for maybe I can uncover a rock here and there, you know?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to the truth, too. I don't have, like, an opinion.
Yeah.
If someone conclusively debunked UFOs, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess they're not real. I doubt that's going to happen. But
yeah, I doubt that, too, yeah.
But I would be willing to look at the evidence. Okay, so we talked about the alien autopsy video. What about the alien interview? You know which one I'm talking about? It was one that Jon Stewart came out. That one looks even more fake, but again, it might not be fake.
Here's the thing. I think the more fake it looks, the more real it might be.
Yeah, it's possible. Right.
Because if you look at guys like Whitley Strieber, have you ever seen the movie based on his abduction starring Christopher Walken? Do you remember the aliens that they showed in that?
Which ones? There's like different ones.
The tall ones. The ones, the classic one on the cover of the book.
Yeah, classic.
They look
grays,
fake.
right.
They look fake. They look fake. They look like dolls. They look.
Right.
They don't look real. They just don't look real. So, but that Whitley Strieber, if you believe him, I don't know. I don't know what to believe about that guy. I think he certainly believes what he says. But if you believe people like that, and that book, that image of that classic gray has gone international, worldwide, that doesn't look real. It just looks like a weird robot puppet or something, right? And like the guy, Fire in the Sky guy, the one with the mustache down in West Virginia, Travis Walton. Yeah, same thing. These things don't look real because these gray aliens, they might not be real. They might just be little robot puppets that the consciousness goes in. We don't know.
Yeah, some sort of avatar, right?
Yeah, but like I think the faker, like that video, to me, when I watch it, my hair gets all tingly on my arms. But if I could get an original copy of that, who knows? It looks like simple animatronics from like the 80s, something that the
from like Showbiz Pizza as a kid. Remember that Showbiz Pizza?
Yeah, right, yeah. Or Hot Fudge. Remember that show, Hot Fudge?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Come on, right? Yeah. They had the guy with the puppet and all that. So who knows? I don't know. My instinct is that there's something there, and I think that scenario certainly. The chances are good that scenario has happened. Whether that is an actual scenario, I don't know. But I think that kind of a thing, certainly there's a very good chance that kind of a thing has taken place many times over the years by our government.
What about this Skinny Bob video? Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I think that's legit.
And what's the provenance of that? Is that like a Soviet one?
No, I think that's Area 51 footage, Skinny Bob with U.S. military being walked literally by the hand down the runway, and look, come on. And the authenticity of that film, that is not an animation. I'm pretty sure that's not an animation. I have not broken that video down because I don't have a clean copy. But if we could ever get a clean copy, but my mind's eye from how long that's been out. That video's been out for 20 years, right? More than that. I don't know when that video first appeared on the internet, but I think based on how old that video is and the technology that's available at the time that came out, I think that there's a real good chance that might be pretty real.
What about this Miami video? I kind of
there's something there. There's something there. I did a whole podcast about that, and the police acted very weird. Listen, I know police behavior. Okay, I've worked on over 100 police-involved cases. Okay, I know that they don't dispatch the entire Miami and Dade County Police and Sheriff's Department over a couple kids with firecrackers or a single gunshot. You know how many gunshots go off in Miami every hour? Hundreds,
a lot,
if not thousands. Okay. They would not dispatch 300 cars, SWAT teams, maybe 1,000 personnel to the mall for nothing. Come on. There's something there. I've looked at the videos. Again, I don't have any clean copies. So it's just what my gut tells me. And unless I can get a clean copy, and any of you viewers out there, if you remember and you have behind the scene footage and you want to send it to us and it's a clean copy, or hey, any of you Miami Police Department out there anonymously want to give me some of your body camera footage, I'll protect your identity and we'll look into it. But my gut tells me that that's real. My gut tells me something real happened there. And I think it's very interesting and compelling. Yeah. That's just, but then again, this is just my feeling because I don't have any actionable evidence to analyze at this time.
Fair enough. Now, going back to the Vegas scenario.
Sure.
Why do you think the police have been so, like, nobody's coming out and really said, or am I wrong? If I'm wrong, please correct the record. But it seems like nobody's coming out and talking about it. It's kind of weird.
Well, I think everybody's under orders to kind of keep it out of the press and all that. And I was surprised, honestly, when News Nation picked up the story. And I don't think they would have picked up the story if it wasn't for my friend Ross Coulthard. I was feeding him my analysis on the video for months. And he's like, nah, it's just a shadow. Leave me alone. I'm busy doing big time stuff, right? He was big time in me. And I'm just joking. I love you, Ross. But then I finally cornered him one night on the phone. We were just chit-chatting.
By the way, if Ross watches this and hears you say that, Ross, come on my podcast, respond to my emails. I don't even know if I say emails, but anyway, sorry, continue.
Ross is a good guy. I've known Ross for over 11 years now. He's a good friend of mine. He's one of my best mates. And, sometimes we butt heads on the issue, because we have different ways of approaching things, So, but I finally got him to look at it, and he's like, okay, there's something there. So he put it up the chain at News Nation, and I got a call from the producer literally a couple hours after he submitted it to him, and they said, we want him on the air. So I went on the air a couple of days later. We did the show. And then, like I said, I've had thousands of comments, hundreds of emails, and people are really interested. And I'm not really that interested in what the talking heads or the news people say, because I think they're going to say what they're going to say.
Yeah, they're told what to say. Aside from like people like Ross, they're told what to say. Here's what you're going to report. Right. Who cares? They don't check to see if it's true. They're just reading teleprompters, half the time repeating what everybody else is saying. Sorry, I'm about to go on a rant. I'll stop.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Listen, Operation Mockingbird is still in full effect.
Okay, one more question, and then I'll kind of give you an opportunity to have final thoughts. So, are there any cases that are not in the news that deal with UAPs, et cetera, that you've been brought on to analyze? And if the answer is yes, discuss one of the most compelling ones, if you can.
Okay.
If you're allowed to talk about it too. Yeah, if you're allowed to talk about it. So
I can do some broad strokes on one that's so very interesting. I actually executed a non-disclosure agreement with the gentleman who took the footage of what he is purporting to be an alien abduction.
And this is credible? Like the footage?
I'm looking into it.
Okay. I mean, how did that even happen? How was he able to record if he was taken?
All I can tell you is that the footage is inexplicably bizarre. And I'm going to break it down just like he reached out to me as a result of seeing me about the Vegas video. And he said, I like the fact that you're not a UFO guy, and I'd like you to look at this video. And I'm a lifelong abductee, and I happen to have caught some footage on a craft during my abduction. And it's 1 minute and 46 seconds or something like that. But I can't tell you anything more about it other than it's extremely interesting, extremely bizarre. I'm going to analyze it. And at some point in the future, if I get his permission, we'll see if I can release it. But I've been commissioned by him to analyze it and give him my opinion as to whether or not it's valid. And he just wants to know. He's like, is this really happening to me? Did I really catch something? Or am I crazy? But what the fuck is this video on my phone? I can't explain it. And it's really compelling. Okay. So that's one thing, and maybe one day in the future.
Real quick, this is a question. Yeah. This is a question to ask him.
Yeah.
Was it on an iPhone or like a Samsung?
It was on an iPhone.
Okay, so with an iPhone, I
have the metadata.
So you're able to read the like the actuator, the pressure sensor, because the pressure sensor is going to be able to tell if there's been a change in altitude and things like that.
I have that, and it does, and also it's got motion.
It shows a change in altitude.
Yeah.
All right. You can feel free to blow me off. Do you have a sense of how high?
About 1,000 feet.
5,000 feet?
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet. So that's the height at which they drop paratroopers from airplanes.
And that's, who knows? And then also there is a distance that it traveled away from, and the geolocator is right above his house. He was 1,000 feet above his house.
Okay, another question. It's 1,000 feet above his house. No, this is important. This is going to get into the craziness.
Yeah.
Was there something that showed that he was taken outside first and then went up, or did he just go straight up through the roof?
I don't know yet.
Okay, that's
I am going to look into it. I'm definitely going to look into it. But he has all the backup on like pinging off of towers. He gave me everything. So this guy, he laid out his hand, and he's been in touch with other, experts out there. He's talking with some very notable journalists that are not really running with the story because they want more validation that it's real. So, and I don't really know him that well. I've only talked to him a couple times on the phone, but I'd say, in a couple of months after, I do my full analysis, I'm going to share it with him first. And then we'll see what happens after that. But that's about all I can say on that one right now. Now, there is another
So for
video.
reference, just for reference for you, just so you know, so Terry Lovelace also had an incident like this where he had an iPhone and he woke up feeling really weird at like 5 a.m. But also the pressure sensor showed that he had kind of gone through the roof, not outside, not just straight up through the roof during one of these alleged abductions. And he gave that to folks at To the Stars Academy to analyze, and I think he's since got it back or gotten it back. So yeah, a lot of the reality is definitely stranger than fiction. But you were going to say something else. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I mean, the thing about going through walls and stuff, I mean, it's interesting. That's in part of pop culture as well. In the most recent, movie, the superhero movie, the guy that runs fast, the Flash, right? He can vibrate so much that he goes through molecules. We all know
it's a vibrational thing. It's a vibrational thing, 100%.
It's a vibrational thing. And then we all know that, there's more space between the molecules of our body than there is mass to us. So
we're 99.999% empty space.
That's right. We are souls having a physical experience as a result of this thing that we're in, whatever reality we want to call this. So I think it's a fascinating thing. Anything is possible. It just depends on what you're willing to acknowledge and see. And I think that, like the spooky action at a distance that Einstein talked about, it's when you see it that it exists, and it does not exist until you acknowledge it.
Yeah, the double slit experiment, right?
That's right.
You'll get a fringe pattern, you'll get a probability distribution if you're not looking at it as it's going through, but if you're looking at it while it goes through, it just hits like an electron.
Right. It's fascinating. Yeah. So I don't discount it. So I think it's interesting. So, and I don't know if you have any follow-up questions, but the other video that I'm interested in is that Turkey UFO from 2008.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, oh my God.
That is the realest video I've ever seen of this genre.
And listen, if that video didn't move the needle, come on. How did that video not move the needle? That's been out there for a long time. And I haven't done my due diligence to see all the work that's been done on it, but I know people have analyzed it. I would love to have an opportunity to analyze a clean copy. I'm going to look into that. That's probably something I'm going to do down the road. That's something I'm very interested in. And then also I got another video just the other day from this lovely young lady who captured the most amazing blue UFO, like 2,000 feet in the sky, right out of her backyard. And it's a 2-minute video. The first 1 minute of it, she's so nervous. She can't hold her freaking phone still enough. And then she finally calms down enough to hold her phone. I think she's like stabilizing her arm. She's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she's got this video captured for, I think, 35 seconds where it's really just perfect right in the middle of the frame. And that's something I'm actually going to be doing a podcast about. I'm going to interview her and I'm going to break down the video. But I think it's real. She gave me the original video with the metadata and everything. So it's
where was this? Where did this happen and when?
It just happened like 3-4 weeks ago, and it happened here in the United States, but I forget exactly the location. But I'm going to have all of that, and maybe we could do another show, and I'll break that video down for you sometime in the future.
100%. As soon as you get your podcast out and people have enough time to look at it, definitely come back. I think
sounds great. Yeah.
Right now, we're in the early days of developing a network independent of government. Government has failed us, and they're never going to come to the table. 100. So I think building this network, even people who are debunkers, I think are useful in the sense that they can, they can help.
Bring the debunkers in.
Yeah, they can help like beat up your argument. That's the whole point. You want to have a robust case where people believe, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's what peer review is for. Listen, 100%. we don't have to be adversarial with people who disagree with us. Bring them in. If you really disagree and you really feel like you've got some kind of a good argument, of why we're wrong, I will factor that in. I want to be wrong. I don't care. Me being right gives me no ego. This is not an ego trip. This is not a vanity project. That's why I'm not making any money off of this. It's not my career. My career is crime scenes. That's what I make my living off of. This thing is interesting to me. It's cathartic. And if we can move the needle a little bit, and listen, I don't blame anybody for monetizing their stuff. That's fine. People need to make a living.
Yeah, look. I mean, I monetize my stuff. Like, no, as long as you're not doing it surreptitiously. Like, do you think Taylor Swift would do what she's doing for free?
Yeah. Right. No, God, no.
She monetizes it. Like, it's right. It's totally fine. Now, if I came out and said I've been abducted, I've gone through this time war and started making stuff up, I'm just interviewing people. I'm just trying to get to the truth. So, look, I think
I'm a capitalist like anybody else. But my area of expertise is what I've been doing for my whole life, and that's why.
Whenever someone levels that at somebody, all you have to say is, "Well, would you do what you do for free? Do you go to your doctor? Yeah. Does your doctor not charge you? Right? Do you write a book?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. My point was, I don't blame anybody for monetizing, but I'm not a member of the UFO community. And this is a part-time thing that I'm doing. I don't do this for 20, 30 hours a week. Maybe I'm doing this for 5-6 hours a week, right? When I'm not, a couple hours at night while I'm watching a ball game, whatever, is kind of when I do this. This is not my full-time gig. That's why I'm not monetizing it, because I don't want people thinking I'm coming in to be an opportunist. I just want to do what I'm doing, and hopefully people.
Well, you're also making professional judgments on something that requires objectivity, right? And I totally agree with where you're coming from. The reason you can't monetize it is people will question the credibility of your judgment if you monetize it. Whereas other people who are just kind of interviewing people or talking to folks in the community,
that's fine. Yeah, because that's good stuff. The alternative information community is where people are going to get the real education in life. I can already tell from the hour or so that I've spent with you, you're an extremely smart guy, very interesting comments, very introspective. You can talk about a number of different things. I am going to immediately subscribe to your show. I think that I would love to, because if this is the kind of interviews you have, I've personally really enjoyed this.
I did too, brother.
Great questions. You're smart.
I did too, brother.
And it's super fun, man. I mean, but people like you are the alternative information. This is where people are going to educate themselves, right? And it's access to that information that's outside of the control network. And I just hope to God that we still have the opportunity to do this stuff into the future and bring people into the fold.
And by the way, I'm going to check out your channel immediately after. Oh, by the way, I'd like to use some of your clips with your permission.
Absolutely.
As part of this video.
Sure. Yeah.
What I'm going to do is, for the audience that's watching right now, if you have any footage that's not just ripped off the internet, but you're the one who took the footage, and you want to reach out and find out if it's real, you could send it through me, through a glass darkly with Sean, right, at gmail.com. And then I will just send it to Scott. Unless you want the flood, it's up to you, brother.
My backup account is scottroeder@gmail. And if people want to send it there, send it there. That's not my business account. That's like the account I use to do my reward points at the grocery store and my credit card account, right? So don't worry about flooding it there. But just put in the tagline, "Saw you with Sean on his show," or original video or something like that, and CC Sean, because if you heard me here on Sean's show, I think I want to give Sean the opportunity to work with me on the investigation. Sean, sounds like you know what you're talking about from a technical standpoint as well. So, maybe we could join forces and,
100%, brother.
Do some stuff, man.
This is all about developing networks at this point and we just do this. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, and that's how we do it.
Absolutely, man.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Brother, I appreciate you, and we'll definitely keep in touch. So
thank you very much. I had a great time. All right. Stay frosty, baby.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's two options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much and keep watching. I really appreciate it.